Hello students. So in this video lecture, we are going to discuss an important topic from the chapter of chemical control and coordination, and that is about the adrenal glands. All right. So we will be first discussing the fact about its location. All right, that where this adrenal gland is exactly located and what is its called, and we will be then studying about the hormones that are being released, what are the structures and everything in detail. Now, so as you can see on your screen, the 3D model, or it's actually the cross section of a kidney, you can see on the lower side, and you can see a structure which is embedded on the top of the kidney, this one. So this is a structure which is just embedded on the top or the anterior part of the kidney, and this is actually representing the adrenal gland. So this is the adrenal gland. Now, our body has one pair of adrenal glands. Since we have two kidneys, all right, since our body has two kidneys, so one adrenal gland is attached to each of the kidney. So our body has one pair of adrenal glands and one present at each of the anterior part of the kidney. All right. So adrenal gland is one pair present in our body. All right. And what is the location? If you see the exact location, then it is present at the anterior part. That means the upper part. So this you can see that it is entirely located on the upper part. So the location is anterior part of each kidney. All right. Now, this adrenal gland is also considered to be as suprarenal gland. Adrenal gland is also called by another name, and this is being called as suprarenal gland. So suprarenal gland means that it is present on the upper part of the kidney. So adrenal gland, also called suprarenal gland, as it is located on the anterior part, that means the upper part of the kidney. All right, so this is the this is the adrenal gland, and this part which you can see, this entire part which you can see is representing the kidney. All right, and that upper portion is the adrenal gland. So we have seen the location of the adrenal gland. We will now talk about the tissues that are present in the adrenal gland and what are its composition and the hormones related to that. Adrenal gland is usually made of two types of tissues. All right, so one is being called as adrenal medulla and the other is being called as adrenal cortex. So we will first see in the model that where are these tissues located in the gland, and then we will talk about the labeling parts in detail. So as I already told you, that adrenal gland is composed of two types of tissues. Is made of two types of tissues. All right, so the first one is called as the adrenal cortex, and the second one, or the second type of tissue, is called adrenal medulla. Now, at this adrenal cortex is the peripheral tissue, you can say, or the outer region tissues of the gland. We will see in the labeling sections as well. So this is the peripheral or outer tissue. All right, and this adrenal medulla is the centrally located tissue. in the adrenal gland. Alright, now this peripheral tissue or this adrenal cortex, this is usually mesodermal in origin. So mesoderm is one of the germ layers that gives rise to this gland. So this is mesoderm in origin. And this adrenal medulla is ectodermal in origin. So just like mesoderm also, this ectoderm is also a germ layer. So this is ectodermal in origin. Alright, so these are the two important tissues present in the adrenal gland. Now we will see the labelings in the gland, that where are these tissues exactly located and what are they composed of. Alright, so we will now shift the model in the center. So we will just highlight the different layers of the adrenal tissues with different color. So let's just first highlight it. This is the second layer, then this one is the third layer, and this we can consider it as the fourth layer. Alright, so you can see that there are 4 different layers. Alright, if I move the model a little bit, so you can see that there are 4 different layers representing the different tissues that are present in the adrenal gland. Now we will tilt the model a little bit so that the labelings can be more specified. Okay, so as we have already talked about the tissues, that means adrenal gland and adrenal cortex and the adrenal medulla. So we will now see the tissue region. So this part, this outer region which you can see, is representing the capsule part, which is a little crusty in nature. So this is representing the capsule part. This represents the zona glomerulosa. Alright, this second layer represents the zona fasciculata, and this layer represents the zona reticularis. Alright, and you'll be very surprised to know that all these 3 zones, that means zona glomerulosa, fasciculata and reticularis, which is commonly being called as G, F and R. Alright, so all these 3 zones, they are or they belong to the region of adrenal cortex. So they belong to adrenal cortex. So these 3 zones are of the adrenal cortex zone. Now this innermost zone, which is the centrally located tissue, this is of adrenal medulla. Alright, this is adrenal medulla. And this you can see, which is present over here, these are the blood vessels that are present in the adrenal medulla. Alright, so we have seen that this adrenal cortex is usually made of 3 different zones. So this has 3 zones. Alright, one is called as zona glomerulosa, then zona fasciculata, and the third is zona reticularis. And you will be very surprised to know that all these 3 zones, they are responsible for secreting different hormones. Alright, so we will be discussing in detail about this. Now we will discuss in detail about the hormones that are released from the adrenal medulla and the adrenal cortex. Alright, so let's just first talk about the hormones that are released by the adrenal medulla. So we have already seen that this portion, this innermost portion, is representing the adrenal medulla. So this one is the adrenal medulla. All right. Now, adrenal medulla is one such region of the adrenal gland which secretes two hormones. So this releases two hormones, and those two hormones are adrenaline and noradrenaline. All right. Now, this adrenaline is also known as epinephrine. And this noradrenaline is also called as norepinephrine. All right. These two hormones are commonly referred to as the catecholamines. So, they are together called or commonly called catecholamines. All right, these hormones, that means adrenaline and noradrenaline, these two hormones, they are called as emergency hormones or stress hormones because they are always synthesized during stress conditions. So this is one of the peculiar features of these hormones, that these hormones are usually secreted during the stress or emergency situations, and that's why they are called as emergency hormones. So these hormones are called stress hormones, or you can say it as emergency hormones because they are always synthesized during stress conditions. They are also considered to be as 3F hormones. 3F hormone means hormones that are related to flight, fight, and fear, which are rapidly released during any emergency situations or stressful situations. So that's why this is called as 3F. So 3F basically stands for flight, fight, and fear. So this is their peculiarity. That means adrenaline and noradrenaline. Now, these hormones, since they are released during stress situations or emergency situations, all right, so that's why these hormones are responsible for carrying out certain metabolical changes in the body also. So, these two hormones, they are actually responsible for carrying out, alertness, then there is pupillary dilation, all these things. They will also increase the heartbeat rate, they will also increase the BP, all these parameters. If we just write that part, so here we are discussing about adrenal medulla. All right, so adrenaline and noradrenaline. Both of these hormones increases alertness, then pupillary dilations, then there is piloerection. Piloerection means raising of the hairs in the body, or you can say it, in other words, you can say it as goosebumps. So piloerection, then sweating, then there is heartbeat, increase in the heartbeat rate, or you can say strength of the heart contraction. So strength of heart contraction, and they are also responsible for increasing the rate of respiration. So they also increases the rate of respiration. All right. Now, these adrenaline and noradrenaline, which are commonly called as catecholamines, they are also responsible for two very important functions, and that is that they are responsible for breakdown of glycogen, and they also promote the breakdown of lipids and proteins so that they can be utilized during the metabolical process in our body. So, in addition, they carry out breakdown of lipids, proteins, and glycogen. So this was all about the adrenal medulla part. We will now talk about the different hormones that are released by adrenal cortex. Adrenal cortex is made of three different zones. All right, and we have already seen that. Now, all these three different zones, they are actually responsible for releasing three different and specific hormones which have specific functions. All right, so let's just once again label the three different zones of the adrenal cortex. So this we have seen that this zone is representing the outermost layer, which is zona glomerulosa. Then this second zone is the zona fasciculata, and this zone is the zona reticularis. All right, this zona glomerulosa is responsible for secreting a very important hormone that is called mineralocorticoid. So this secretes mineralocorticoids. All right, this zona fasciculata is responsible for secreting the hormone glucocorticoids. So this secretes glucocorticoids. All right, and this reticularis is responsible for secreting the sex hormones. So this secretes sex hormones. All right, so these are the zones for the adrenal cortex. So adrenal cortex, we have seen that adrenal cortex is made of three tissues, which is representing G, F, and R. Glomerulosa, fasciculata, and reticularis. All right, now what are these words corticoids? So the hormones that are released by the adrenal cortex, they have been given a name which is called as corticoids. So that's why the term corticoids have been added to mineralocorticoids and the glucocorticoids. So corticoids are the hormones secreted by adrenal cortex of the adrenal gland. All right, so this is the case. And one very specific hormone, that means the targeting hormone, which is called as ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone. Tropic hormone. So this is the hormone that will trigger the release of adrenocorticoids hormones from the adrenal cortex. So this ACTH, it is going to stimulate the adrenal cortex to release adrenocorticoids. All right, so that means the ACTH is going to act on adrenal gland. So this basically acts on adrenal gland, and then only the hormones from the adrenal cortex will be released. So this basically acts on the targeting gland is the adrenal gland, which is this gland. All right, so ACTH is the main precursor hormone through which it is released. Now we will see the individual functions of mineralocorticoid, glucocorticoid, and then sex hormones. So we will first talk about the mineralocorticoids. So we have seen that this mineralocorticoid is being released by which layer? This is released by this layer. So this is zona. Let's just label it again so that you people can have the overall idea. So this zona glomerulosa, and this is releasing the mineralocorticoid. Alright, so since the word mineralocorticoid, as the word is also suggesting, that this corticoid is going to regulate and balance the water and the electrolytes in our body. Alright, so they regulate the balance of water and electrolytes in our body. Alright, and in our body, the main mineralocorticoid is the aldosterone. So, aldosterone is the main mineralocorticoid in our body. Alright, now this aldosterone is actually responsible for, as I already told you, that this is going to maintain the balance of water and electrolytes in our body. Alright, so this aldosterone is responsible for acting on the kidney tubules, renal tubules, and will stimulate the resorption of sodium and water. Alright, so this aldosterone stimulates reabsorption of sodium ions and water. Alright, so this will stimulate the resorption of sodium ions and water, and those will help in maintaining the electrolyte balance, the body fluid volume, and the osmotic pressure and the blood pressure as well. Alright, the entire details of all the content have been given in the description section of the video link. Alright, so this is the function of the mineralocorticoid. Now we will talk about the glucocorticoids. So this layer, which is the zona fasciculata, this is going to release the glucocorticoid. So this is zona fasciculata, and this is going to release the glucocorticoids. Alright, so we will now see the functions. Now, so as the word is suggesting, glucocorticoids, so these corticoids are actually involved in carbohydrate metabolism. That means glucose metabolism in our body. So, involved in carbohydrate metabolism. Alright, now just like in case of the mineralocorticoid, our body was producing aldosterone, the main mineralocorticoid. So in case of glucocorticoid, our body produces cortisol. So cortisol is the main glucocorticoid in our body. So it is the main glucocorticoid in our body. Alright. Now these glucocorticoids, they are also involved in several functions. Alright, so if we look into the functions of glucocorticoids or functions of cortisol, we can say, then there are several functions in which they are involved. Alright. So the very first important function is that they will stimulate the process of gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, and proteolysis. So stimulates gluconeogenesis. That means there will be the formation of glucose from the other byproducts. Then lipolysis. Lipolysis means breakdown of lipids. And proteolysis. Alright. Now this cortisol is also involved with cardiovascular system, with the functions of cardiovascular systems and kidney functions. Involved in kidney functions, and cardiovascular system. All right, these cortisol, they play a very important role in anti-inflammatory reactions. So that means they are going to suppress the immune responses. So cortisol produces anti-inflammatory responses. And it is also going to stimulate the RBC's production. That means erythropoiesis. All right, so these are the important functions of glucocorticoids. Now, sometimes it might be possible that the excess of the glucocorticoids can be produced in our body, or it can be the deficiency of the glucocorticoids in our body can be there as well. All right, so the deficiency or the excessiveness of these hormones can cause the disease condition. So basically, certain disease are caused as a result of this excessiveness or deficiency. So if there is excess of glucocorticoids, so excess of glucocorticoids is going to cause the Cushing syndrome, while the deficiency of glucocorticoid is going to cause the Addison's disease. Addison's disease. Now, this Cushing syndrome is related with symptoms like there will be increase in the blood pressure, there will be irregular bones formation, there will be weight loss because of the chemical deficiency in the body. So all these are the symptoms of the Cushing syndrome. All right, now, so this was all about the glucocorticoids. Now we will talk about the hormone which is released by the third layer, and that is the zona reticularis. So this one is the third layer, and that is zona reticularis. Now this zone reticularis releases sex hormones. All right, so this is going to secrete sex hormone. Now, the sex hormones which are released by this zona reticularis, they play a very important role in the formation or in the growth of the pubic hair, or of the axial hairs, or of the facial hairs which is formed during the puberty. So these sex hormones which are released by the zona reticularis, they play a role in the growth of axial hair, pubic hair, and facial hair during the puberty. All right, so this was all about the hormones that are released from the adrenal cortex. So in this video lecture, we have discussed about the adrenal gland in total, about the regions that are present in the adrenal gland, and the hormones that are released by the adrenal gland. Thank you.